It's Kristen here from That Blooming Garden. I just thought I'd pop on today to tell you what's going on in the garden. Been pretty busy and not even able to write on my blog recently because I've been so busy harvesting tomatoes. Thought I'd show you what I've been picking out of the garden. Just look at these tomatoes. They're absolutely fabulous this year. This is a tomato called Morado de Rincon de Amias, and really long name, so we'll just call it Morado. It's a huge beefsteak tomato, and each tomato weighs about 1 pound, and it's just been a great year. But yesterday I picked these, and I wanted to get some of the tomatoes coming in because gradually the temperatures are going to start dropping next week. So it's a good time to bring your tomatoes in out of the garden. And even if they're a little bit green, just think to put them on a plate, bring them inside, put them on the counter on a plate, and they'll ripen inside. So if you've got cool nights coming up ahead, it's a good time to think about doing this now. I love tomatoes. Everybody knows I'm kind of a crazy tomato gardener, and I've got about 20 different kinds. This one actually I grew a few years ago for the seed bank and had a few seeds left over and thought I'd grow it again this year just to grow out some old seed, right? So I'd have fresh seeds. Well, hopefully I'll be offering this as plants in 2018 because it's just been a fabulous producer this year. So it's not too soon to get rid of some of your tomato foliage, especially since there's rain in the forecast for next week. So, but isn't this a lovely tomato? And I grow a lot of cherries as well, but these beefsteaks, I mean, I had to go buy bacon today because what's better than a bacon and tomato sandwich, right? So looking at a few other things that I'm doing, it's a good thing to think about shopping around for garlic. This is actually garlic from my garden, and I usually just plant my own garlic. And I probably won't plant until the soil's fairly moist, so don't plant yet because it's too dry out still. But shop around for the best varieties. I love the Russian garlic, and it's always been my favorite, and it's a hardneck garlic. So it's up to you. A hardneck garlic will actually give you scapes in June before the garlic is ready, whereas a softneck garlic doesn't produce scapes. So shop around. I was actually at West Coast Seeds this morning and saw some wonderful big bags of garlic. So there's a great choice out there now. So get it early before it sells out. It's definitely worth it. It's a 9-month crop, but it's really not a lot of work. And normally I plant mine towards the end of October, and you should plant it before November 15th. And then, of course, you just don't worry about it, and it'll start coming up in the spring and with little green shoots, and you harvest usually in around July, beginning to mid-July. That's about it. Other things you can be doing this right now is thinking about doing some fall planting. You know, I'm a bit of a plant nerd, right? And because we had a water line break in the front garden, it's a good time to think about maybe getting a bit of a makeover in the shade garden. I love hostas. So I went up to Erickson's Daylilies and got this beautiful hosta, and you can see if you look closely, it's got actually red, sort of almost a pink stem to it. So it's one of those newer varieties. I'm just going to see what it's called. It's called Hosta Raspberry Sundae. Now, doesn't that sound delicious? I mean, we all love our ice cream, right? So it should be an easy one to remember. So I've got to find homes for these plants, and it's good to get those fall plants in so they have time to establish their roots before we do get a frost. And you know what it was like last year? I mean, we definitely need to have them in before the end of October. So that would sort of be what my goal is, so they can actually put some roots on during November and get going on that. So, so look out for new plants. Another thing that I'm doing in the garden is it's actually forecast to go to about 9 degrees at night starting next week. So I'm thinking about all those tender plants that should come in the greenhouse for the winter. And even if you don't have a greenhouse, you can bring in some plants to your garage. You may have indoor plants that are sitting outside right now. So you need to bring your indoor plants in pretty soon because you want to make sure that they're sort of still at the same temperature. So if it's about 60 or 70 degrees outside, you want to make sure that they come into the home where that's going to be the house temperature as well. Because if you wait until it's really cold outside, it's just kind of like in the spring when you wouldn't throw your annual flowers out immediately into the cold because they can't put a coat on. But so you wouldn't bring your house plants inside and leave them out till it's too cold. It's too much of a temperature change, so you need to think about that now. I was given a lot of geraniums this year. They're an annual plant, and so I'm actually potting them up into 1-gallon pots, and these are just your annual geraniums, and they've done pretty well this year, but they're done. And so I'm gonna pot them up into fresh potting mix. I try and get as much of the old soil off, and then I pot them into clean pots and bring them into the greenhouse for the winter. You can also bring your geraniums into the garage if you want as well. I've done that in the past, and then maybe in February you just give them a little bit more light and they'll start to grow again in February. They do go pretty dormant. They look half dead. But it's amazing how fast they'll grow back in the spring. And you know, by saving them, you're saving yourself money that you don't have to spend next spring, right? So think about that. I'm also saving seeds from a lot of my plants, but that's a whole other post. You know, I'm kind of a seedaholic as well. But I thought I'd pop in today and sort of let you know what's going on in the garden. And it's almost time to think about those tender plants. Bring your tender plants first, maybe some of your containers that have had better days. You know, it's time to empty them. And I'm putting everything in the compost, so I have great soil for next spring. Anyway, I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching today, and join me over at That Blooming Garden on my Facebook page. And this is on my personal page right now, but someday I'll do it on the other page as well. So talk to you soon. Happy gardening.